Today is all about Mexican style red rice, and the first variation is highly requested by you all that you want to use more natural ingredients and less powdered ingredients. That one's for you. Stick around for the other variations because they're just as easy and delicious. Here we go. So for any type of Mexican style rice, you'll want a pan with a lid. I'm also using 1 cup of long grain rice rinsed in cold water. Here I'm using 2 large fresh Roma tomatoes. If you have smaller ones, use 3. 1 or 2 cloves of garlic works for this. A 14.5 ounce can of chicken broth. I'm also using ground cumin and black peppercorn mix. I'll say the cumin is optional if you don't like that. Here I have some fresh onion that I sliced, and I'm going to be adding salt to taste. So I'm going to start preheating my pan over a low heat. I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of cooking oil, and now I'm going to toast my rice. Put that right in and take your time doing this. You do not want to burn it. It takes about maybe 5 to 7 minutes over a low to medium-low heat. Once it's aromatic, fragrant, and a light golden color, I'm going to add my ground cumin and black peppercorn. This is like close to a teaspoon. Here I have my fresh onion. Again, everything is going to be so fragrant and aromatic when you warm the spices and the onion. So just keep mixing and stirring. Now I'm going to create my water or liquid. So it's the tomato, the garlic, and the can of chicken broth, and I'm just going to puree that. You'll definitely want 2 cups of liquid for this rice. So now pour that in. And just make sure you scrape everything out. You could strain that into the pan. Now I'm going to gently mix. So the can of chicken broth that I used has sodium in it, so I'm only going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of fine salt, but salt and seasoning is always to your preference. So you could give this a taste before you start to simmer and cook it. So just give that a gentle mix. And what you'll want to do is cover your pan with a lid, and you'll want to bring up the liquid to a rapid simmer. At this point, when it starts to simmer, you'll want to lower your heat, and you're going to let it gently simmer and cook covered for about 15 to 18 minutes until it looks like this. This actually took 15 minutes. It's perfect, but do not lift the lid. I'm going to shut off the heat, and you'll want to set it aside and let it set with the lid on for another 10 minutes before you open the lid. I actually let it go for like 7.5 minutes. I think it's long enough. And let's look at it. It smells amazing, by the way. Ah, perfect. Literally perfect every time. And I just had to show you. Look how great this looks. So it should easily fluff, and it's ready to serve. Now let me show you 2 other ways to make Mexican red rice. Today I'm making Mexican red rice. You guys requested a recipe video using tomato sauce, so here you go. To start, I'm going to be using 1 cup of long grain rice, and I'm going to pre-rinse this or wash this in cold water. Once I'm done rinsing it well, I'm just going to drain any water, kind of give it a shake, and place it over a bowl until I'm ready to use it. This will allow it to sort of drain and dry. So here I have a 1/4 teaspoon of whole cumin seeds and 25 to 30 peppercorns. I'm just going to crush and grind this, and I'm going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of this mixture. You could just use already ground cumin and pepper. So I'm also going to be using some sliced onion. The amount is up to your preference. This is just a little bit of onion slices. Here I have 1 large clove of garlic that I chopped and minced. I will be using 2 cups of water, and 1 can of tomato sauce typically comes in 8 ounces. I'm only going to use about 5 ounces of it. Here I have 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder that I'll be using. You could also use 1 bouillon cube. And I'm ready to start making this rice. So I've preheated my pan over a medium-low heat. I'm adding 2 tablespoons of cooking oil, and I'm going to start toasting the rice over a medium-low heat. Nothing on high because you don't want it to burn. So once my rice gets really fragrant and golden color, I'm going to add the onion and saute that for about a minute or so. Next, I'm going to add my garlic, combine, and quickly saute because garlic does burn. Now for the ground cumin, black pepper, give that a mix. And I'm adding 1 tablespoon of chicken flavored bouillon powder. Combine that. And now I'm ready to add my tomato sauce. Again, the amount of tomato sauce that you use is to your preference and taste. I'm going with about 5 ounces. I'm going to add my 2 cups of water. So just sort of give it a quick mix. And you'll want to bring this up to a simmer. I'm going to actually put the lid to help it sort of come up to a boil. And once you see the water rapidly boiling, you're going to want to lower the heat to low and cook this over a low heat for about 15 to 18 minutes, and do not lift the lid. That's very important when cooking the rice. So after about 15 to 18 minutes, mine actually took 18 minutes over low heat. I turned off the heat, set it aside. I do not lift the lid. Let it set for 10 minutes, and then you'll lift the lid. You're going to fluff and serve. And this is just one of many ways that I make Mexican red rice. Today I'm going to show you one of the easiest pans of Mexican red rice you'll ever make. This recipe is my father's recipe. He is no longer with us, but this recipe does remain, and I always think of him when I make it. It's so good. Let me show you how I make it. So this is what I use to make this pan of rice so convenient. And this is what my dad used. 1 tablespoon. And for the rice, definitely rinse in cold water. That does help the texture. Did I skip that step today? Maybe. I'm also opting for onion powder and garlic powder. These are granulated. I'll be using like a half teaspoon to a full teaspoon each. I think a half teaspoon works for the powders. A little bit of cracked black pepper. 2 cups of room temperature water. I will be adding a little bit of cooking oil into the pan. So I'm going to preheat the pan and get things started. So I'm going to move you closer to the pan. I know this is not how I usually film, but you know, here we go. So let's get here. Can you see that? Okay, so I am preheating the pan over a medium heat. If you want to crank it up to high just to get things going, but you got to turn it down because we are going to toast the rice. And this is essential when making this type of rice. Toasting the rice first in cooking oil also helps the texture. Here I'm going to add like a tablespoon and a half of cooking oil, and I'm going to add my rice. Over a medium-low heat, I'm just going to gradually toast the rice. Nothing on high heat because then you'll burn the rice. You'll want it to become light in color, like a light golden color, and fragrant. Now I'm going to add my granulated onion powder, garlic powder, and again, you could use fresh. And here I'm going to add my ground cumin. You can omit this if you don't like ground cumin. I love it. So give everything a mix over your medium-low heat just to warm these spices through. Now I'm going to add my cracked black pepper. Again, that's optional if you don't like it. Be sure to constantly mix the rice with the dry seasonings. Here I'm going to shake in my 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder with tomato and mix that through. And it's going to go quick from here because you don't want to burn this seasoning. Now I'm going in with my water. And again, if you have low sodium chicken broth, that works too. Here I'm just going to quickly mix. You don't want to over mix it. I'm going to cover with a lid, and now you'll want to bring it up to a gentle simmer. You might need to crank up the heat. Once it starts to simmer like this, then you'll want to put it on a low heat setting and gently simmer for about 15 to 18 minutes. I'm going to go with 15 minutes. So while the rice is cooking, I wanted to mention a few things. Like I stated earlier in the video, this is not traditional. And in place of the water, you could opt to use low sodium chicken broth. I have used a 14.5 ounce can of like Swanson's chicken broth in place of the water. It's great. You may have also noticed that I did not add salt. Seasoning and salt is to taste, but the tablespoon of the chicken tomato bouillon powder is enough sodium in this. If you want it saltier, then you can add salt. And if you feel like that's too much bouillon powder, then scale it back. This recipe video is just to showcase how easy it is to use pantry items instead of fresh items to get Mexican red rice. It's really good. So my rice is done. What I'm going to do is shut off the heat. I'm not lifting the lid, and I'm just going to let it set with the lid on for about 10 minutes. Then, time to lift the lid. And it smells so good. And I want you to see that using a low heat to simmer it for that 15 to 18 minutes gives you a fluffy texture rice, and there's no sticking at the bottom. Nothing burns at the bottom. So the low simmer during the cook time works. This is ready. I'm eating it straight out of the pan. Look at this. So good. It smells amazing and it's so easy to make. So good.